Can you hear them? There's a couple of hummingbirds right above my head. And I don't think they're too happy that I'm right underneath their hummingbird feeder. You also will likely hear a number of birds, some frogs, maybe a rooster, maybe a donkey. There's all kinds of noises up here. I'm up in Paonia. I live in a small little valley up in the mountains, and it's just beginning to be spring here. So there's a lot of new growth, and it's a nice, cool, sunny day. I'm Katie Cat, and this is our weekend AstroTarot. We have a lot of cards that are coming in today for us to talk about. And the first one that I really want to, bring our attention to is this energy that we are feeling called to build something, and likely something that we have had the idea to build before. We have this interesting energy right now with all of these planets up in Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign, which is where we build things and solidify things in our foundation because it's fixed, right? It's a solid energy, which can sometimes be seen as stubborn. But when we have a way of knowing what we are called to do, then we apply our energy to it. And that is very much likened to this opening energy that we have in our reading today by way of the Three of Pentacles, the Master Craftsman. So what is it that you feel called to build right now? You actually have a lot of supportive energy moving into that area of your life. Now, the challenge is that we likely have something that we still have to complete before we move with our full energy toward that which we feel so called to move toward. Because we have this Two of Wands showing up as our challenge today, or our friction. And, challenge is an interesting word, as I've mentioned before, because we see it with this negative light, and yet it's when we are challenged that we see what we are really capable of. And so I invite you to look at it from that perspective. If you are feeling a challenge, or if you feel like your energy and effort is pulled in two different directions, there's something that you have to wrap up. And if you reflect on that and put your energy toward that, maybe even just a little bit every day, then you'll complete it and allow yourself to really move forward toward this call of the wild that you feel in your heart. Now, the way through the situation, this Nine of Swords energy. Some of us may have been feeling like this quite a bit lately with all of the eclipse energy moving around. The Nine of Swords pictures a person who is in a lot of ways comforted by their mind, and yet that realm is creating some kind of inner turmoil or some kind of inner battle, right? Because it's in the realm of the mind, and yet because it's showing up as our way of moving through the friction or moving through the challenge, consider that it is a number 9. So it's telling of some kind of completion around this. Like, if we see things as they are, we can't really unsee them, right? It's like, trust who someone is the first time, right? Just what are you unwilling to see that you really have to come to a level of acceptance with? Quite honestly, this reminds me a bit of Saturn up in Pisces. Now, the way through the ultimate and, the ultimate outcome, I pulled us quite a number of cards because I was looking for some clarity. And of course, it just kept entangling me more and more in this north and south node energies that we are moving through and continuing to navigate through until the fall, when we have our last eclipse energy in Taurus, when the sun is going to be in Scorpio. So the ultimate outcome came in by way of the Knight of Swords. Oh man, Mercury has been in retrograde for a few weeks, and it's going to be coming out of retrograde in a couple of days. And whenever the Knight of Swords shows up, it's bringing in some kind of communication, or is telling of something that is still very much up in the air. And so this arena that we're in and that we find ourselves possibly struggling with or trying to figure out how to navigate through, there's still something that has to land from it, right? It's still very much up in the air. And Mercury reminds us of that, right? It's in retrograde, so it's pulling things back to another point. And what's so interesting to me is that it's pulling things back to where the North Node is, which is in the beginning degrees of Taurus, which again is telling us that we need to set our anchor on that which we need to and feel called to build. Now, it's telling that there's still some information that's going to come in, right? Something that is outside of our perspective and our perception, something that is outside of our knowing. Now, the further clarifying cards came in by way of the Seven of Wands, which is an energetic of, you know, boundaries and like setting some kind of line in the sand, you know, around where we're going to put our energy and where we're unwilling to put our energy anymore. We also have these two kings on the table. We have the King of Cups and the King of Pentacles, which is signaling the South Node up in Scorpio and the North Node in Taurus, clarified further by the Two of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles. So lots and lots and lots of earth energy on our table today. And you know, the eclipses are based on the North and South Node placements. And we have a fixed cross coming up here that we're all kind of working through. And it's because of the North and South Node placements. Now, the North Node in your natal chart is like your North Star. It's telling you where you are called to develop your life in this lifetime. And the South Node is where you're coming from. And it's kind of like where we tend to lean into by habit, but it ultimately can be our greatest demise because it pulls us away from our North Star. And that's in our natal chart. But when we consider where they are placed right now, which is in, you know, the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio, there's a lot of support, more so in the sign of Taurus, telling us like it is time to rebuild. It is time to re-solidify your belief system and ground yourself in that, rather than let yourself fall and lean into, you know, the desire nature. Because Scorpio as a sign tends to hold a lot of depth to it, which can hold a lot of things underneath the surface that need to be processed. And, you know, when you consider that the sign of Scorpio is associated with the underworld, that part of the realm is where things get turned over and transformed to be reborn. And so to me, it seems like the South Node is asking us and kind of showing us where it is that we need to transform ourselves. And for me, it's especially poignant because the South Node is sitting right on top of my sun placement in Scorpio. I also have 5 other placements in Scorpio. And so this transit of all of these planets up in Taurus in a lot of ways is calling me to task, just personally. Now, when you consider the North and South Node placement in Scorpio and Taurus, the squaring aspect comes in by these movements that we have with Mars, which right now is currently in Cancer, and it's approaching Leo, which is a fixed fire energy. And then we have, of course, Pluto, which is another transformative energy, which is at 0 degrees retrograde right now on Aquarius. So it is in a fixed air energy. So we have this cross in the fixed signs. And, you know, to understand what it means to be a fixed sign, we have to consider what it means to be an active sign and what it means to be a neutral sign. So when you consider, you know, an active energy, it's something that is initiating. It's something that is forward moving. It is something that is active, right? When you consider fixed, it's the opposite of that. It's like if something's moving forward, it's where it stops, right? It's the anchor that stops things. And in Taurus, it's fixed earth, right? So it's stability around belief systems, stability around our finances, stability around our resources, stability around our agriculture, stability around our money. Whereas if you consider fixed fire, which is Leo, which is where Mars is, you know, pair those energies together. Fixed fire is like this, it's not a fire that's moving, right? It's like a fire that's staying in place, and it's very heart-centered. And so it is in a lot of ways attached to our sense of self by how people see ourselves, and also where we are called to creativity, because it's ruled by Leo. It's that like solid fire that you can sit next to at a campsite and it'll keep you warm, right? It's not like an active fire that you have to go down and chase, like Aries, active fire. Now, when you consider fixed water, then you have Scorpio energy, and you have fixed emotions and certainty around emotions and certainty around the depths of how they feel. And it's in those depths of water where we really transform things. But fixed water can be similar to ice. It can be cutting. It can be really solid and really deep and hold a lot of potential. But it has this compact fixed energy to it. And then we have fixed air, which is Aquarius, which is this certainty around knowledge and what we know. So we have these 4 anchors, which are up in the sky right now. And then they all have their own energy to them, right? Mars is going to be in Leo, which is kind of this like aggressor energy. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius, which is a transformation around how we think about things and our sense of knowing and our perspective. We have fixed energies in the North and South Node. We have, you know, the North Node in Taurus, which is really calling us to put our energy toward that and let that drive the crank of that tire iron, so to speak. And then we have the South Node in Scorpio, which in a lot of ways is showing the bolt that we have to replace, or like the thing that we have to let go of. So there's this energy, and it's a really powerful energy because fixed energies don't like to move, right? They don't like change. They don't like to shift. But once they do, they anchor themselves immediately, right? When you consider like repotting a plant, right? If you take it out of its soil, the moment you put it back in soil, it will reroot itself and re-anchor itself. So while it may not like change and it may not like to be disturbed, it will quickly re-anchor itself and reroot itself. So consider that all of these changes are really trying to activate something deep within you. And that where it's going to show up, of course, is going to depend on your natal chart placements. And if it's impacting you intensely is likely dependent on if you have any placements on those anchoring points, or if you have them in trine, you know, 120-degree relationship to any of those points, or in square, or in opposition, right? If it's in opposition, it's going to be in alignment to any of those points. But it's a powerful time. And in a lot of ways, I think that the reading today is making a note of that and asking us to re-anchor in our vision around our life path and to hold a boundary around that sacred space, because ultimately it all depends on what you leave behind, right? If you leave behind something that helps light the world, or if you leave behind something that's toxic. And whether or not you can put your energy on that thing that you feel ultimately called to put your energy on depends on your willingness to let go of that thing that you keep fighting with yourself against. I send you all a good wish and so much love on this Saturday morning. Things are changing, and change is in the air. If you're interested in a reading, reach out to me at rootsofalchemy@gmail.com. You can also pre-purchase your reading at rootsofalchemy.com, my website, and also find some of my artistic orbs that are inspired by astrology, and some of my skincare and other products that I make. I send you so much love. I hope you are well, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.